This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the Roundup. We have a packed show today covering a wild night in the NBA playoffs, major injury updates, and the latest fallout from the NFL draft. Let's get started.
Nikola Jokic shoves Jaden McDaniels after a late layup.
Ayo Dosunmu makes history with a massive bench performance.
Heisman finalist Diego Pavia goes undrafted in 2026.
Dante DiVincenzo suffers a season-ending torn Achilles tendon.
Roki Sasaki leads the Dodgers to snap Chicago's streak.
Minnesota takes a commanding lead, despite devastating injuries.
Anthony Edwards exits Game 4 with a knee injury.
The Raiders select Fernando Mendoza first in the draft.
First, the NBA drama. The rivalry between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves just reached a boiling point during the closing seconds of Game 4. With the Timberwolves comfortably ahead 112-96 and only 2.1 seconds remaining, Jaden McDaniels decided to take an uncontested layup instead of dribbling out the clock. This move, often seen as a breach of unwritten rules when a game is already decided, absolutely incensed Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets star sprinted the full length of the court to shove McDaniels, sparking a massive scuffle that involved players from both benches. It was a chaotic scene that resulted in the ejections of both Jokic and Timberwolves forward Julius Randle. This physical confrontation adds a massive layer of tension to a series where Minnesota now holds a commanding 3-1 lead.
It is fascinating to hear the post-game reactions because they really highlight the generational divide in how players view sportsmanship. Nuggets coach David Edelman was quite vocal, saying that in the modern era, you just don't see teams continuing to score once the game has been conceded. He even compared it to the more aggressive style of the 1980s. On the other side, McDaniels seemed completely unfazed by the uproar. He simply stated that, since the clock was still running, he might as well score the points. He also joked about Jokic's size, saying he just saw someone big as hell coming at him. This bad blood isn't new, especially after McDaniels called the Nuggets bad defenders earlier in the series. With Game 5 approaching, the league will certainly be watching this matchup very closely for any further retaliation.
Next up, a breakout. While the scuffle made headlines, the actual basketball story of the night was the incredible performance of Ayo Dosunmu. With stars Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo both sidelined by injuries during the game, the Timberwolves desperately needed someone to step up. Dosunmu did more than just fill a gap. He put on a historic display by scoring a career-high 43 points coming off the bench. This performance puts him in extremely rare company in NBA playoff lore. Before Saturday, only 3 players had ever scored 40 or more points in a playoff game as a reserve. Fred Brown in 1976, Nick Van Exel in 2003, and Stephen Curry in 2016. Dosunmu was incredibly efficient, shooting 13 of 17 from the field and going a perfect 5 for 5 from beyond the arc. He essentially carried the offense single-handedly during the second half.
The sheer dominance Dosunmu displayed was staggering, especially when you compare his output to the Nuggets superstars. In the second half alone, Dosunmu scored 27 points, which was exactly the same amount that Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray combined for during that same period. He showed total command of the floor, attacking the paint whenever he saw an opening, and pulling up for jumpers with complete confidence. This wasn't just a hot shooting night. It was a career-defining moment where he proved he could lead a team under the highest pressure. He now joins Anthony Edwards and Sam Cassell as the only Timberwolves to ever cross the 40-point mark in a postseason game. His ability to push the pace and exploit Denver's defensive drops was the primary reason Minnesota was able to gut out this win and move within one victory of the semifinals.
Now, to the draft. Shifting gears to the NFL, we have a major story developing with Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia. Despite a stellar 2025 season where he racked up over 4,400 total yards and nearly 40 touchdowns, the Heisman Trophy runner-up went completely undrafted. This makes him the first Heisman finalist to be passed over by every NFL team in 12 years. While his college production was elite, scouts were clearly deterred by several significant red flags. The biggest issue was his size. Although Vanderbilt listed him at 6 feet tall, he measured in at just under 5'10" at the Senior Bowl. Historically, quarterbacks of that stature have struggled to find any sustained success in the NFL, with Kyler Murray being the only notable exception in recent decades. Teams also expressed concerns about his play style, which relies heavily on off-platform throws and scrambles, rather than traditional pocket passing.
Beyond the physical and technical concerns, Pavia's pre-draft behavior may have also played a role in his slide. He was vocal about his draft stock in a way that many teams found dismissive of other talent, and he famously told John Gruden that he wouldn't hire an agent because he didn't want anyone taking his money. Although it was later clarified that he did have an NFL agent for professional matters, the perception of his off-the-field antics seemed to mirror the criticisms leveled at players like Shadir Sanders. Now that the draft has concluded without his name being called, Pavia is left looking for a path into the professional ranks as an undrafted free agent. Some analysts are already suggesting that the Canadian Football League might be the best place for him to prove that his unique skill set can translate to the pro level while he waits for an NFL opportunity.
Back to injury news. The Minnesota Timberwolves' victory over the Nuggets came at a devastating cost that could alter the entire trajectory of their postseason run. Starting guard Donte DiVincenzo suffered a torn Achilles tendon during the first quarter of Game 4, an injury that has been confirmed as season-ending. This is a massive blow for a player who had been the epitome of durability, starting all 82 regular season games for the Wolves. Not only is he out for the remainder of these playoffs, but the recovery timeline for an Achilles tear means he will likely miss a significant portion, if not all, of the 2026 to 2027 season as well. DiVincenzo has been a vital part of Minnesota's defensive identity and floor spacing, and losing him leaves a massive hole in their starting lineup that will be incredibly difficult to fill as the competition gets tougher.
The injury situation in Minnesota is actually even more precarious than just losing DiVincenzo. During the same game, star guard Anthony Edwards also had to exit after suffering an apparent knee injury. While the severity of Edwards' injury is still being determined through testing, the prospect of being without both of their primary guards is a nightmare scenario for the Timberwolves. They are currently on the verge of advancing to the Western Conference semifinals to face either the Spurs or the Trailblazers, but their depth is being tested like never before. With DiVincenzo definitely out, the team will have to rely heavily on Ayo Dosunmu and Bones Highland to take on expanded roles. The Wolves need just one more win to eliminate the defending champions, but doing so without their core backcourt will require a monumental effort from the rest of the roster.
Now to the diamond. In Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers managed to halt the Chicago Cubs' impressive 10-game winning streak with a dominant 12-4 victory on Saturday night. The star of the show was Roki Sasaki, who earned his second Major League win. Sasaki pitched into the sixth inning for the first time this year, throwing a career-high 99 pitches on his own bobblehead night. While he did give up 4 runs on 3 solo homers, his ability to navigate a dangerous Cubs lineup was impressive. He struck out 5 batters and showed why the Dodgers transitioned him from a closer role back into the starting rotation. This win was crucial for Los Angeles, as they had lost 5 of their last 7 games and were looking to regain their footing in the highly competitive National League West Division race.
The Dodgers' offense also finally woke up, setting a season high for runs at home with 14 hits. Shohei Ohtani managed to snap an 0-4-1-2 slump with a single in the first inning, and even recorded his second stolen base of the season. The game really turned in the 4th inning, when the Dodgers exploded for 6 runs, utilizing a small ball approach to chase Cubs starter Colin Rea. Max Muncy also contributed a key 2-run homer earlier in the game to keep the momentum shifting. The Cubs had a chance to climb back in the 6th inning when they loaded the bases, but the Dodgers' bullpen held firm. This loss for Chicago ends their hottest stretch of the season, and they'll look to bounce back in the series finale with Shota Imanaga taking the mound against Justin Robleski in a battle of talented left-handers.
More on the Wolves. The atmosphere at Target Center during Game 4 was described as one of the most intense and emotional in the arena's history. The Timberwolves' 112-96 win felt almost secondary to the sheer drama of the injuries and the physical play. When Donte DiVincenzo went down just 90 seconds into the game, the air seemed to leave the building. Seeing him leave in a wheelchair with a hoodie over his head was a somber moment for the fans and his teammates. Coach Chris Finch was visibly emotional after the game, calling DiVincenzo the heart and soul of the team. Despite the shock, the Timberwolves showed incredible resilience. They trailed by only 4 at halftime, using the break to reset their rotations and emotions before mounting a massive second-half comeback that eventually broke the Nuggets' will.
The turning point came late in the third quarter, when Minnesota went on a 21-6 run. Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels were instrumental in locking down Nikola Jokic, who struggled significantly with an 8 for 22 shooting night. But the night truly belonged to Ayo Dosunmu. His performance was so dominant that even teammate Julius Randle admitted he didn't realize Dosunmu was that damn good. Dosunmu's exclamation point came with a deep three-pointer over Tim Hardaway Jr., after which he shouted, "I'm him," to the crowd. It was a statement game for a young player thrust into a massive role. The Timberwolves proved they could win through adversity, but the cost of this victory is something they will have to grapple with as they try to close out the series in Denver and move forward in the playoffs.
Focusing on Edwards. The injury to Anthony Edwards is particularly concerning because it involves his left knee, which is the opposite of the right knee issues he has been managing throughout this series. Edwards appeared to hyperextend the knee after an awkward landing while trying to contest a shot by Denver's Cameron Johnson. Before the injury, Edwards was clearly struggling, having made only one of his 8 field goal attempts for just 5 points in 18 minutes of play. His departure in the second quarter left the Timberwolves without their primary scoring threat and emotional leader. The team has officially ruled him out for the remainder of Game 4. And the medical staff is scheduled to perform a battery of tests to determine if there is any structural damage that could sideline him for the rest of the postseason.
Losing both Edwards and DiVincenzo in the same game is a catastrophic scenario for Minnesota's backcourt depth. DiVincenzo's torn Achilles is already a confirmed season ender, so the status of Edwards' knee is now the single most important factor for the Timberwolves' championship hopes. The video of DiVincenzo leaving the arena in a wheelchair was a stark reminder of how quickly a promising season can be derailed by injuries. Minnesota has shown they have the grit to win individual games without their stars, as evidenced by their performance on Saturday, but sustaining that level of play over a full series or multiple rounds is a much taller order. Fans are anxiously awaiting the update on Edwards, as his presence on the floor is what makes this Timberwolves team a legitimate threat to win the Western Conference.
Finally, draft winners. Wrapping up with more NFL draft insights, the Las Vegas Raiders made a splash by selecting Indiana University quarterback Fernando Mendoza with the first overall pick. This marks a historic moment for the Indiana program under coach Curt Cignetti, as Mendoza becomes the first top pick in the school's history. Analysts are calling the Raiders one of the big winners of the draft, finally addressing their long-standing need for a franchise quarterback. Other teams receiving high marks include the Philadelphia Eagles, who once again found incredible value in the second and third rounds, and the Cleveland Browns, who made several savvy decisions on paper. The draft has been full of surprises, but the Raiders' move to secure Mendoza is the headline that will define this class as they look to rebuild their offense for the future.
However, the draft hasn't been without its controversies. One of the biggest stories involves New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel, who was notably absent from the team's war room. Vrabel is reportedly seeking counseling following his alleged involvement with a former reporter, a situation that has sent shockwaves through the league. This is a significant disruption for the Patriots, as the head coach typically has the final word on all roster decisions during draft weekend. Despite this distraction, the draft continues to move forward with teams looking for the next breakout star. As we look toward the fall, the focus will shift to how these new rookies integrate into their systems, and whether the Raiders' bold move for Mendoza pays off. It has been a weekend of high stakes and even higher drama across the sporting world.
That's all for today's roundup. Thanks for joining us for this daily briefing. We'll be back tomorrow with more updates on the stories you follow most. Have a great day.